So when we talk about the cleaning, what do you think? What's come into your mind? Yeah. Do you enjoy cleaning? Anyone who enjoy cleaning or any household chore? Okay, you can raise your hand and see how many of you really, enjoy the cleaning so much. Yeah. Or anyone, oh, Michelle Cho. Okay, good. All right. So what do you think, when talk about the cleaning, what means to you? Is it just only the mopping the floor, removing the dirt or cleaning unused item? What do you think cleaning means to you? Yeah. And we know that actually cleaning is part of our daily life, and is a part of our daily activity as well. But I'm sure that some of us, they, especially some of, the homemaker, if they spend a lot of time, at home, they feel fatigued or they may not enjoy the work of cleaning. But why cleaning has the meaning? So today we will let Linda Thomas to share the story with you. Okay, so before we start, we'd like to share with you the verse which is inspired our academy. And then when I read the verse to you, you may just listen with your heart. Our highest endeavor must be to develop free human beings who are able of themselves to impart purpose and directions to their life, the need for imaginations, a sense of truth, and the feelings of responsibility. These three forces are the very nerve of education. Okay, thank you. Right. I would like to give you a short introductions about why we have these sessions. And this is community education. We co-created by Kongsi Academy in Malaysia, Trefoil co-learning community in China, and Linda Thomas Academy in Switzerland. Yeah, so you can see that there's an importance of cleaning, and that's definitely a meaning of cleaning. Yeah, before we proceed, then let me introduce you who is Kongsi Academy. Kongsi Academy is the vital arm of Kongsi Co-op. Kongsi Co-op is Malaysia's consumer co-op. We formalized a year ago with the intention to connect people, soil, and nature so that we could co-create a harmonious system. So our intention of our Kongsi Academy is to provide a more diverse educations and a humanity-based learning.
I'm going to plug your computer in, huh?
No, anyone can mute it if you accidentally on. Yeah, so all the courses we organize and arrange in Kongsi Academy is emphasized on holistic approach to a human development, and it's a lifelong learning for all ages. So we have done about close to 100 sessions of the activities last year. And also we have two cycles of a text study, with this book in Mandarin, Why Cleaning Has Meaning. And also in August, we invite Linda Thomas to give us an online share as well. So about another partner of this session, we also have a Trefoil co-community, co-learning community from China, and Trefoil they have three transitions. The development for this Trefoil's learning community. At first, they established in 2017 as a translation press, where they focus on children education and community building. And in 2020, they established a Trefoil co-learning community, where they also create online and offline high-quality courses and readings. And lately, they just formed the Trefoil Books in Austria, where they start to publish books in Chinese and foreign languages just to support the authors and interpreters to publish the books in Amazon and other platforms. And currently, threefold books. They currently have 10 books were produced in Amazon, and more books are under preparation. Of course, the main role today is our dear Linda Thomas. Yeah? And Linda Thomas, lately, they are fully involved in the academy, where she would like to use her 35 years experience, to share why cleaning has meaning, and why the cleaning not only removing the dirt, but also they could bring the community, the family, and also the relationship to be into a harmonious the atmosphere, and connect everything closer. So we have a nice encounter with Linda Thomas this September, end of December, and end of September, when we visit to Donna. And we are so happy, and because we were invited to her house. And others, when they know that we visited to Linda's house, then there were one question they asked: is her house clean? Yeah. Okay, we can share. It's not only clean, but full of the warm and love atmosphere in her home. So this is not only the place is clean, but the environment, the atmosphere, the created is actually interrelated. We can feel the warm gesture that Linda gave to us when they received a group of us, about 11 of us, to visit her home. We have a short gathering and nice chatting and meeting friends, and also together with Ming Yus. Tonight he's online from Threefold's co-learning. Yeah, we have about an hour chat, and we exchange and get to know each other well. So we realized that this topic is very important, especially for nowadays. We have a very hectic lifestyle, and most of the time we're spending outside, and also we outsource some of the services to some of the agents as well. But it seems like to Linda, her mission is the room care, the cleaning, everything is extended to a human care. This is the mission that she shares and she has, and hope that through all this cleaning, all this activities, is a love dedication. Yeah. So when cleaning becomes care, what's happened? Yeah. When cleaning has meaning, what happened? Yeah, I believe that because now most of our household right now is get ready for spring cleaning, because next month, February, 2 months later, is a Chinese New Year coming soon. So usually when we enter into New Year, most of the household will do a lot of big cleaning. Yeah, we will remove a lot of old stuff. We hope that we will do some furnishing or a minor renovation of the house, make sure that our living place is bright and is new look like, and also clean. Yeah. So before we get the things goes on, let's learn from Linda Thomas and heard about her experience and why she found that cleaning has meaning and all the cleaning has a purpose, and which today our main topic is creating the space for the new year. Now, I would like to pass the floor to Linda. Linda, you're unmuted. You're muted.
There we go.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Samantha, and a warm welcome and a hearty hello from me to all of you. At the moment, I am in South Africa. This is my country of birth, and I'm here basically on holiday. And so I'm not even in my own home at the moment, where I should be preparing the space for the new year. But this year, everything is a little bit different. So I will change all these things when I get back in January. Now, in the introduction, I don't want to repeat everything that Samantha has said or written. But this whole thing about cleaning, it is a crucial part of our daily life, of our environment, and it affects our health, whether we think it or whether we're aware of it or not. It affects our activities, our relationships. Through the many, many years that I have been working on this subject, I know to what extent it can affect the relationships of everybody who lives in the home. It can bring about tension if we do not handle the subject carefully. And there's the one thing when I listen to what the things that you usually do before your new year, it is so admirable. And I must say that it's something that in the West we have lost a little bit. Not everybody does the spring clean anymore, and the whole importance of this somehow seems to have gotten a little bit lost through the hectic ways in which we live. And like everything else that is part of our daily life, we can use cleaning as a tool, as an implement, something that can change things, because everything that we do on a regular basis can either become routine, and routine can be tiring. It can be even, it can put your soul to sleep. So if you just do things out of habit, out of routine, that is something totally different than when you consciously give it a rhythm and then work with it in a conscious way. One of the things that many women, I think this is more a quality that women have than men, is this idea that we have to be able to multitask. And, I often have an image of myself when my children were small. You have a baby on your hip, you've got your telephone, squashed here in between your shoulder and your head, and you're stirring the pot on the stove. And, are we doing justice to the food? We're not doing justice to the baby. We're not doing justice to the person that you're speaking on the telephone. So this is something that I would so much like to wish us all as part of a preparation for the new year. Let us learn how to take one thing after the other. First, really connect consciously with everything we do for that moment. Let the task which we are doing, the one task that we are at this moment, be the most important task. Because that's when you actually really love to do things, is when you are able to surrender yourself completely to the task at hand and not try to do 3 or 4 things at the same time, because you cannot give the same quality to everything if you try to do them all at the same time. And this is a question that when we work together over a longer time in January, we can go into more, because there's so many aspects of this, trying to do the one thing after the other. So you can keep that in the back of your mind when you would like to create space for something new for the new year that is going to come. And one of the aspects of cleaning is, of course, of caring. As Samantha said, it's not only removing dirt, but creating space. When we learn to work with love and with devotion, with attention to the detail, to the small things, that is when cleaning becomes caring. And the minute that we start caring for a space, we don't only remove dirt, that we really are able to create space for something new. And what do we want to create space for? Sorry? What do we create space for, and who do we invite to fill that space? And this is important, that we become aware that, of course, there is a whole invisible world around us that is peopled or alive with beings that are there and that are willing and really ready to help us, but they are waiting for us to ask us. They are waiting for us to ask them to help us. So cleaning, this gift of the activity of transforming, untidiness into tidiness, dirt into cleanliness, that is a gift that we can give not only to our homes, to our families. If we become aware of what we clean with, it's a gift to nature. It is also a gift to the spiritual world, because we are able to create spaces for them in which they can become active. And I would like to share with you a small anecdote from my childhood. It was one of the memories that came back to me when I was looking for ways in which to learn to love cleaning, because it's something I had to practice. It was not something that had come naturally to me. Immediately I decided to clean, to put my children into Waldorf school. And it was not always easy. So I had to really learn to accept this as part of my life and to love it. So I then lived with this question of, how do I learn to love cleaning? And one of the memories that came back to me was when I was a child in South Africa, and we had two African families who lived on the farm, who helped my parents, the men with the fields, and the woman helped my mother in the house. And I remember that one morning I woke up early. I was a young child, and I saw this lady standing in front of her hut. And these little round huts that they have in Africa. And she had created something like a small terrace in front of her hut. And it was connected from her door to the outside of the circle that she created outside by a small path. So this one morning, she stood in front of her door. In her hand, she held a little broom which she had made out of twigs and branches, and she looked out into the world. And then at a moment, she turned around, she faced her door, and then with the most elegant and respectful of gestures, she bent down and she started sweeping the path with a small broom. And as she was sweeping the path, she moved backwards, little steps, and she had these beautiful rhythmic movements that continued until she reached the end of this little path. She put herself in the upright position and then purposely walked towards her house, made a short pause at the door, and then went inside. Something about this gesture and this movement impressed me. Actually, it moved me profoundly. So the next morning I got up early again because I wanted to see if she was going to do it again. And sure enough, she did. And then I realized that she did this every morning. So one day I went to her and I said to her, "What are you doing?" Now, of course, everybody knows that she's sweeping the floor, but I knew there was something behind that. So I wanted to know what she was doing. And she looked at me, and her answer was, "I sweep the floor in front of my house very carefully every day and very consciously, because only good spirits are allowed to walk on a well-swept path." She said, "And the first person who walks on that path brings a blessing to the house. And I bring a blessing to my house every morning." And that was something that was so profound. And I'm so grateful that I had lived with this question of how to learn to love cleaning, because if I did not, this memory might never have come back to me. But how profound is that everything that we do with awareness, that we do carefully, we actually create space for the good spirits to walk on. And I think if we bear that in mind, then of course it is really quite easy to learn to love cleaning if we are able to work just from that point of view. Now, as we said, our main theme is creating space for the new year. And then it's, for me, important to ask, how do we see the new year? Is it merely a date? I mean, in the Western countries, it's the 1st of January. The 31st of December is often spent partying, trying to start the new year with a bang, and sometimes also with a hangover. And yes, is it just a date? It's the end of something old. It's the beginning of something new. It's also a form of moving on. If you look at the children, when they finished one school year, they move up to the next class, different level. And yes, do we strive to reach different levels when we have a new year that comes? Very often we hear about New Year resolutions. And, we want to change so many things. We want to achieve this. We want to overcome this. We want to lose a few things around the house. Perhaps we want to lose a few kilos. And we don't want to stop talking badly about our neighbors or people or something like that. So these resolutions, how long do they actually last? How do we try to really keep that up? And to me, one of the most important things about this idea of New Year is, are we actually creating space or are we filling it? Sometimes we fill our house with things that we don't need, and we fill our heads with things that we don't really need. We also try to fill the heads of our children sometimes with things that they don't need at a certain age. So this is all part of this question of observation and self-observation. This is something we'll talk about more in future. It's this question of not being able to clean unless you really observe what needs to be done, because you will not remove what you don't see. And to observe your own attitude or the way that you go about it, you have to practice self-observation. So you want to observe your gestures, you want to observe your thoughts, your attitudes, because this is really a very important part of not only creating space, but this whole action of cleaning. And very often another way of filling spaces and I'm talking about all kinds of spaces, is this wanting things, and it doesn't necessarily have to be material things, but just this feeling of wanting things and willing this and that. We're so often busy with what we want that we don't often ask ourselves, what does the spiritual world want of me? Does it want me to do what I think I want to do? And this is where we can create space, with questions and ask, what is the next step for me to take? What is it that life actually demands of me? Is it always what I think is necessary? So instead of making resolutions, I would like us, or to suggest that we create space and invite that which we are striving for into this space. It's, the same as creating space for an answer by asking a question. If you really ask a sincere question, you create space for that answer to become. And everything that is important in life needs space. As Samantha mentioned in the beginning, our relationships need space. Our relationships need care. And you have to create a space in which to sort of practice that care. The relationships that we have with our family, with our children, with our home, with the objects in our home, with our garden. Everything actually is always based on relationship and the quality of the relationship. And so for all these things to be able to manifest, we have to create space. So, for your children to be able to do their homework or to practice their music. We have to create space. And today, as we also mentioned, we're all so busy. And we all know that when we're really busy and hectic and stressed, we have, like a tunnel vision. You don't look left or right. You just look the few steps ahead of you, what's coming next. And when we have a tunnel vision, we actually lose connection with what is around us, and very often even connection with ourselves, because we don't realize the needs of others when we're so concentrated on the next thing that we have to do. And sometimes we don't even realize our own needs, like a desperate need to just sit down and have a cup of tea and relax. So all these things we really need to create space for. And it's also so important that we ask ourselves, when we're tired, when we're overwhelmed, why do we do things, too much of things? Why do we always have this feeling that it's too much? It's something I hear so often, when I make suggestions in workshops, and then people say, yes, but I don't have time, and I just have so much to do. And nobody has time, that's true. We don't have time. Time doesn't belong to anybody. It's not something that we have. But we do take time, and we make time for the things that we consider important. So this is also just something that we can practice, is when do I take time for those things that are important? Now, do you can ask yourself this question: do you spend sometimes too much time cleaning? Do you spend too much time creating order? Do you spend a lot of time and effort disinfecting? And if you do this, if you find you answer yes to any of these questions, have you ever asked yourself why? Why do I do so much of certain things? Why do I do so many of these things that make me tired? Try to analyze that. Try to find out why you do things. Is it because of fear? Is it because you need to be in control? And if this is the case, ask yourself, well, how can I let go? Because that's also a form of disorder. Everything that we do that is too much is a form of disorder. Just like when we have too many things, physical things, we have disorder. And then the other question is, of course, are you often tired? If the answer is yes there, how can you create space for yourself to rest? Are you stressed? Can you create space for yourself to unwind? And this brings us to the new year, because the new year is new, but at the same time, it's also old. Because, of course, we start a new year, but we're not new. We start the new year with our habits, with all our experiences. It's a little bit like the pure mountain the pure water that comes from the mountain. When it leaves the source in the mountain, the fountain or the spring in the mountain, it is perfectly clear. But as it takes its way down to the village, it always mixes with the old water. So even by the time it gets to you, it's not as clear and as pure and as new as it was when it left the spring. So, the new year, it's a little bit like water, fresh water. If you want to pour fresh water from a spring into a container, you make very sure that that container is clean. You want it to be clean. You want to know that pouring pure water into something, it has to remain pure. And you will check it and perhaps even rinse it out before you put the pure water in there. And this is why it's so important that we also pay attention to our own container, our own whole being, our home, and, everything that surrounds us. And then we get back to this question of observation and self-observation. And we also spoke about cleaning as a family. So this is something that I would so much love to encourage. There's so many different cultures in this world, and even within one country, there's different cultures because people aren't all brought up the same way. So, you know, you can live in Switzerland, and in one culture, you have this thing of people doing something together as a family, create a community and really do something together. And in the other family, you will have this idea that that's just women who do this. You know, it's a woman's job to look after the house. The husband brings the money that the family needs to live with. And even if the woman works, somehow it seems that the husband's work is more important. So the woman has to do the work at home. I know that in cultures, some cultures, you have this. I've just been to Canada, and even people there had told me this is so difficult because we both work. And, you know, a woman would say to me, I work and I also do the housework, I do the cooking, I do the cleaning. My husband works and he has a good job, and it's wonderful because he makes everything possible for us. But who is entitled to rest on the weekend? So this is something that we have to create space for, that we have this kind of communion and a communication with each other, that we can, you know, decide that there's not, this is more important than that, but as a unity, as a family together, we create space for the festivities. And how wonderful it could be if we create space, for instance, for the new year together as a family, as a community. And this is one thing that's wonderful about the Kongsi Academy and the co-op, and also the threefold learning. As we've heard in China, these are communities. And, you know, the families belong to that community because the smallest community is always the family. This is, yes, it's the smallest unit of our social society. But we have the communities that go a bit further. And this is why it's so wonderful if we can bring the values from the family into the community. But of course, at the same time, these communities have got also, like what we're trying to do here, we also have a desire to help in educating and to expand or introduce new ideas to the larger communities, so that the members of that community can again bring these new values into their home, into their family. And this is what is so important, that as a family, when we want to now work together to create space for the festivities in our home, the home is the space that we share. And it's wonderful if we can all take responsibility for the space, that we can all contribute towards the care and the harmony that lives within the space. If we all do this effort, if we make this effort, it doesn't mean that we're never going to have an argument again, or we're never going to disagree again. That's part of learning, that's part of life. But how do we handle a disagreement? That is something that we can learn. That is something that we can create space for, this new way of trying to communicate out of this communal spirit of sharing and of taking responsibility. So it's important, if you want to clean your home together. Now you've got time to prepare. You know, with us, it's just around the corner. But with you, you've got 2 months in which to prepare. So, you know, talk about it in the family, you know, start bringing ideas and also asking ideas, you know, asking your children, you know, if you had a big wish to have space for something, what would that be? And how would you think you could go about creating that space? How can you make more space for something? Or, you know, it's just so important to discuss and to plan this together. If you live with more than one generation or more than 2 generations in a home, this is also something, how can I include the whole family, you know, even the parents, if they live there, how can we look at this and discuss and prepare for this. And I've always encouraged working with the guardian angels as we speak about these beings in the Western world. But you also have your spiritual beings, you have this awareness of the beings that live around us. So you can ask these spiritual beings to help us and to support us, to prepare a space for the discussion, for this moment of organizing together, and then really create the importance and the awareness of being able to let go of certain things. You know, like for instance, if there's going to be gifts given, like now here in the Western world, Christmas is around the corner, and with Christmas come gifts. And if you have to choose gifts for your children and for your partner, and the rest of the family, how do you choose those gifts? Do you bring really quality gifts that will serve the purpose of the family, that will be things that can last for a long time, and not something that you're going to throw away 2 weeks later or 3 or 4 weeks later? And not to give so many small things, but rather something that has a specific value and that the children would appreciate and that they would then also want to take care of, to create a relationship with. This is all part of just pairing and preparing and knowing what you want to create space for. I think
通过这样子的一个精心准备去维持到我们的关系的一个发展，所以我们说这个实际上也是在为我们的关系制造空间。那让我们去想一想，如果在我们的生活里面有哪些困难的时刻，我们如何去面对这些困难的时刻，去创造空间。当我们在面对生活的挫折的时候，我们如何能够去认识到这些，能够去把这种平静和照料的这种关系带到我们的家庭里面。
And we can always compare removing dust with clearing bad thoughts. Working with transforming negative feelings, it's like getting rid of dirty water. There's just so many ways in which we can look at things. And of course, always with gratitude for all the good that we have experienced. And to let go of the less good things, but at the same time, to be aware that the things that were difficult were very often a possibility in which we could have learned, because we do learn from the difficult situations. So we can we can bring gratitude into this, always being grateful for what has come to your life, what your destiny has brought to you, so that you could learn, and also invite, new learning possibilities for the new year. So yes, let's organize this together. Let's plan it together, that it would be something that would be joyful, to share, that would be joyful for the whole family, and that this can create a bond of new understanding, of love in our hearts for our family, but also for the society. And how can we bring this out into the society? So what belongs to the preparing? Of course, when we do these big cleanings, we're going to do things that we don't do every day. As Samantha said, even small renovations. You might want to wash the curtains. You're definitely going to wash the windows. And it's good to sort of reflect on everything that needs to be done. And this can be also part of a discussion in the family. Let's make a list. What are the things that we need to do? And then also say, well, who's going to do what? What would you like to do? It's nice if a child says, well, I'd like to clean the windows, or another one says, well, I would like to sweep out the cupboards or wash the mirrors or whatever. So, but it's good to work together as a family so that everybody has an idea of what this involves. And, then you can say, then everybody can say, but that's much too much. Can we make set priorities? What can we do? What shall we do together? make a decision as a family together. And if you say, well, but it's really to start the new year, I would like us to do all these things, then sit down and try to work out how much time you're going to need. You've got experience, you did this last year. Because the most important thing of cleaning together with a family is, please do not plan too much. Do not expect too much. We do not want you to expect too much of your partner, too much of your family, too much of yourself, because what's going to happen is you're going to be overwhelmed. Everybody's going to be stressed, and then it's not a positive experience. So the preparation is important, especially if this is the first time that you're going to try to do it with the whole family. Plan it well, look at all the details, and then, depending on how many people are going to help, you have to have the cleaning equipment and the material so that you will have enough for everybody to have what they need. When do we start? How many hours do we work a day? Don't work more than 1.5 hours at a time without taking a little break. Maximum 2 hours, especially if you work with children. Make sure that you've got nice treats to have when you have the break. Have some nice fruit or have a nice drink or something light to eat. But make sure that you plan the work, but you also plan the breaks, and that you make these breaks joyful. Enjoy them. Let the children look forward to it, and then they can say, Mommy, we need another break. And then you can say, well, we're first going to just finish this, and then it's going to be the break. This is important. And then see if you're going to do this over 2 or 3 or 4 days. Because just trying to fit everything into one day, it's very often not realistic. I mean, I don't know, perhaps you're much better organized than I am, but I would not try to fit it, to fit too much into everything. And this would be a very good opportunity to do observation exercises with the whole family, with everybody that's going to participate. When you start planning, let's look at this room. What's in this room that we don't need anymore? And what do we have in this room that needs to be done? Can we actually, yes, decide on what we want to do in this room? And then, as I said, try to sort of estimate how much time you're going to need. It's important that there's always, when you work together, that there's joy, that there's laughter. Don't forget your humor. If something happens, make little jokes. If a child drops something or whatever happens, don't make a drama. Try to take things as they come, and there should be humor, always humor connected with this. And also be aware of the movement, because it's one thing we very often very hectic in our thoughts, in our actions and things like that. But how often do we really move? How often do we have quality movement? And this is one of the wonderful aspects of cleaning. You can move, you can consciously move, you can bend down to clean a corner, and you can be aware of that movement. You bend down, you clean a corner, and then you get up again, and you're aware of this movement. You can make a little dance with your vacuum cleaner. You can even dance around the room. The way that you take your cloth, the way that you wipe the table, if you really wipe the full surface of a table and you move with your whole body, not just with your arm, but take your whole body into the movement. If you clean a window, it's the same thing. Move with your whole body, move the whole being. And, practice this. Become aware of the movement, because that's so wonderful, harmonious, loving gestures. It's also a good opportunity, if gifts are involved, to spend time with your children, that they look in their rooms and, create space for what the new things that they hope will come or that will be coming. you know, there shouldn't be too much stuff. And we as parents should be examples, you know. So, of course, if we have a totally stuffed house, we can't expect a child not to have a stuffed room. It's really just part of that. It's like this one mother who once said to me, she phoned me and she was most unhappy because her daughter, she asked her daughter to clean her room, and her daughter turned around and said, well, you do yours first, mommy. We cannot expect our children to do things that we don't do ourselves. So this is really important, that within this whole task that we are always aware that is that we are examples for our children in everything they do. Now, when you've gone through the day or these days of having done something, or when you've finished a room or a cupboard or something, make sure, as I said before, you observe and see what needs to be done. And it's wonderful when you finish a task to bring everybody together again and to observe this. You know, look at what you've done, look at the quality of what you've done. And from my experience, it's always wonderful to sense that it's as if a lot of light has come into a room because we've cleaned it. Let the children look at it with you. They will feel it most probably more stronger than you. And then you can be proud of the work that you've done. You know, to fill your children and yourself with a sense of pride of a task well done is a great gift, and it's a great satisfaction. And it is something that will want them to repeat this experience. Gratitude for what you've done and also pride in what you've done. This is so important because too often, you know, we connect criticism and discontent with this task. You know, we're not happy with it and we grumble and we feel that we're the only one doing it, and we're angry at the people who made the mess that we have to clean up. And especially now when we want to do this cleaning for the new year, that is something in the self-observation that we should be very careful about. What is my mood while I am doing this? Am I criticizing or discontent? Or am I grateful? Am I devoted to my task? And if you don't feel quite grateful, take a little moment, step back and see how can I remedy it? How can I try to become aware that the places that I sweep or wipe or do beautifully and carefully, that creates spirit for the good spirits to come in, the space for the good spirits. Because this is healing. This is bringing peace into our family. And if we can extend that to our community, and if we can then extend that to our city, you know, the cosmos is the limit. So whatever we start in a small way in our home, we take out into our community, and from there it can only go further. And I believe that we all know how desperately this is needed in the world today. It is really true that everything that is done out of spiritual understanding is where a new civilization will start. And as I said before, our home, it's the smallest unit of society, of social life. So if this can be changed, then so much can be changed in the outside world, because everything is reflected in the home. You know, this is where everything that is cultural, everything that has, you know, sort of to do with civilization and learning and awareness, all these things live in the home. And because this is reflected here, this is where renewal can start. A small beginning. But as I said, with that, we can bring healing, we can bring understanding. With everything that changes in our family, we can bring that into our community. Something else that it's good to be aware of when we do the cleaning and the caring is that we work with the elements. Now, we usually speak of 4 or also sometimes 5 elements. I know that in the Chinese culture, for instance, you speak of the 5 elements. And when we clean, we are always in contact with these elements. These elements all have got their own meaning, their significance. You know, like fire is, it's joy, it's love, but it has also a negative side. There's always a negative aspect to everything. So it's very important that we're aware of this in the self-observation. When is the negative aspect of the element affecting me? And when can I sort of enhance the positive aspect of this element that I'm working with? So I bring joy, I bring love into my space when I work with fire. And with, you know, with water, this existential trust, the confidence that you can bring into the work that you do, into your home, and to try to keep the fear out, which is the other aspect of it. So, you know, to live and to work with a sense of acceptance, the sense of beauty, rather than with the sadness and grief, which it can also bring. So be aware of this possibility of working with the elements. Because when you work with the earth element, you clean. When you work with water, you wash. When you work with air, you purify. When you work with fire, you sanctify. And for all this, we need our hands. And within our hands, we have the strength to transform, because our hands are linked to our arms. Our arms are linked to our rhythmic system. It's right there where our whole heart is, you know. So the love and the warmth and the rhythm can flow from our heart through our arms into our hands. And in this way, we can really work with awareness, with love. And these forces that come from the heart can help us to overcome the fears that makes us want to use more disinfectant or to over clean things. We don't need all that if you have the trust and the faith that you've got the force to transform in your hands and with your awareness and with your spirit. And there is one of the verses that is just before New Year, you know, the New Year that we know in the West. It is by Rudolf Steiner, and it says, surrendering to spirit revelation, I gain the light of the world being. And I can only confirm that this surrender, this total surrender, this is when we allow the higher forces to work through us, to guide us, and to help us to bring this healing and this peace into our homes and into our community. And I wish for all of you with my whole heart that this is something we will be able to do this year, and that it's something that we can work towards and strive. And in that sense, way in advance, I would like to wish you a very happy new year. And now we will start with the questions, if that's all right with you.
Thank you, Linda, for such a wonderful sharing. And for friends, should you have any questions to ask, please type in the chat box. Yeah, Linda, here is one of the questions about the school. Is it, the question is like, what would you tell to the school that cleaning toilet as a punishment to students that not doing their homework?
That is something that I would very, very severely not agree with. Cleaning should never be given as a punishment, never. Because if a child associates cleaning with punishment, that will stay with him for his whole life. So, you know, if then later that person has to clean his own house and you know, clean his own toilet, and he has this feeling that this is a punishment. How can he ever do that with love and with surrender? So please don't punish children by making them clean. The only way that you can punish them, and then I mean punish, is if you say, well, I think that because you haven't done this, you should be doing this, but then you do it with him. If a teacher punishes a child by giving him a task to do, the teacher should be there and accompany the child and guide the child and show them how that is done correctly. And then actually the child can learn something from that experience, and the child can actually be grateful for that experience. So please don't punish children by letting them clean.
Okay. Thank you. I think this I have answers your questions. And the next question is about the special need kids. And the question is how to prepare the environments for highly sensitive children with special needs.
Could you just repeat that? Highly sensitive children with special needs.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, that is, of course, something that is very difficult for me to answer if I don't have the child with me. I have cleaned in many, institutions and schools with children with special needs. And I know that often the educators or the teachers have told me, don't even try to work with that child. It's impossible. It won't work. And with me, it always worked, because I always try to sense what the difficulty is that the child has, and then try to adapt the task to that child's needs. So if it's a child that likes to be in contact with water, I will give that child a task that where he can use quite a bit of water. If a child is sensitive to dust, you're going to avoid giving him a task where there is a lot of dust. If you know that a child has got a certain disgust or, an adversity to something, that's not the task that you're going to give the child. So, and I think that you have to be very sensitive to the children with special needs, in that you perhaps take them close to you and guide them into what they can do. And anything that is really harmonious, like for instance, folding the cloth and wiping small surfaces that are not too difficult, and observing a piece of furniture, for instance, with a child, and let them see how nicely that furniture is made, how the pieces are joined together, and then go along all the surfaces, observing the piece of furniture, that can sort of really give the child a sense of interest. As I said, it's very difficult to just give you a question that's going to fit every child. That's impossible. But here again, if you're going to work with children with special needs, I always prepared myself in advance. I really prepared myself in advance. I tried to have this contact with the spiritual beings that are connected to this child, and ask these beings to guide me into working with the child in a way that would be good for the child.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Linda, I think that's a common question that have been asked even when we collect some of the questions. It's about the procrastination, the delay doing stuff, or there's no discipline. And also some of the participants, they do complain, it's not only the child, or maybe the child, their child, or their partners, or themselves, that they don't have a consistency on the cleaning. Yeah, how it could help.
The best thing that can help with procrastination is rhythm. When you give your work a rhythm, for instance, very often the biggest reason of pushing things, of not doing them immediately, is because you perceive what you have to do as a mountain. It seems like so much that you don't have the courage to even start. And that's why people just push things on and on and on. So if you sort of give your work a rhythm, I mean, I gave this example in my book, and often before, when my children were still living in my house, we cleaned as a family on Thursday afternoons. The children didn't have school. We had our own business, so we always made sure that until 3 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon, we did not take appointments. And you know, if you have a rhythm in which to clean your home, the rest of the week you're free. But if you're procrastinating, you always have it on your back. You always know, I have to do it. And when you say, well, I make an appointment with my home, and this appointment is Saturday morning, or it's Thursday afternoon, or it's Tuesday evening, doesn't matter when. And then you make a date with your house. You put the appointment in your agenda, into the agenda of everybody in the house. And this is the time that you work, and you try to do it as far as possible together. And, you know, with my children, it became so much part of their lives that they never even questioned it. They knew on Thursday we cleaned together. And when they had friends that came to visit, the friends would help them so that they could start playing together sooner. You know, and we always had this, the plan that at lunchtime, it was my husband and my son, and in supper, it was my daughter and me who did the dishes. In the morning, everybody did their own dishes because we didn't always have breakfast together. But all the meals that we shared, one part did it on the one time and the others at the other time. So it was never a question. I never had to say who's going to help with the dishes. Everybody knew who's going to do the dishes when, and which part of the cupboards are going to wiped on that at that time. So it's just a question of organizing and setting a date. And then, you know, here again, you have to agree. You've got to speak with the family. You've got to come to this agreement. And then once everybody has agreed, then you can expect. But if you don't agree on it, if you don't talk about it before, you can't expect it to be done, okay? That's important. But if you yourself really have this problem, you start there, give yourself a rhythm and say, on this day, I will do this. Because if you tend to procrastinate, then you're not going to help your family. So you have to overcome that first. And this is also with a good rhythm. A rhythm helps with all these things. You know, if you come to visit me, you say you came to visit me and my house was very clean. Now, before, when my children were cleaning with us, we would clean on a Thursday afternoon. So if you come to visit me on a Wednesday evening, especially if it's winter, you might find a little dust ball in the corner. That didn't disturb me. It was going to be removed on Thursday. But of course, if my cat brings in a mouse on Thursday afternoon after I've cleaned, I will not let it stay till next week. That's common sense, you know. So, but it is a relief if you know this is when I do the work. Then the rest of the time you're free. You don't have, if you know I do my laundry on this day, the rest of the week you don't think of your laundry. You know, it's planned, it's organized. And we don't realize how much easier our life can become if we give ourselves a good rhythm. I've tried it. You can believe me, it works.
Okay, thank you. The rhythm, building a rhythm is more important. Yeah. So another question that someone raised a hand and leave a message about the elements. They would like to get more. Maybe you can explain a little bit more about the elements you mentioned at home, the element at home, and also they like to find out where they can get more information regarding the methods to enhance the elements. Yeah.
Well, you know, in my book, I wrote quite a lot about the elements and the elemental beings. So that is, of course, something that they can look into and read. And I think it's just this whole question of being aware that when we work with the elements, we are in touch with the elements, and through the elements with the elemental beings. There are cosmic forces that are linked to the elements. Now, as I said, in the Western world, we work mainly with the earth, the fire, the air, and the water, and also with the ether. And I know that in the Eastern world, you often have the earth, you have got wood, you've got metal, you've got water, and you've got fire. And so it's good to just look into that. I mean, you must have knowledge about these things yourself. But for instance, water has got certain qualities, and everything has got positive sides and negative sides. And I remember that when I was, for instance, as a young mother, and sometimes when I just started my business and I was exhausted and I was really overwhelmed, basically, I would sometimes experience the negative side of the elements much more strongly than the positive side. Now, we know that water washes away, water can make things clear and limpid, but water is also, you can, sometimes you say to yourself, today I'm drowning. When you've got too much, you're drowning. Or you've got the feeling that I'm bleeding to death. All my life forces are flowing from me. So when you become aware of this, then try to change it so that you can then go from, bleeding to death. So all your forces is running out of you. Take some water, put it over your face, put it over your arms, and feel how that calms you and how that resuscitates you. It makes you feel fresh. It makes you feel good. That's just one example of just working with water. And there's examples for all the elements. And this, I can explain this, but this will take a lot of time. If you want to, I can do that, but you can also really read more about that in my book. I spent actually quite a lot of time with this aspect of the elements and the elemental beings. So you tell me.
So the only thing is after that, continue reading. If you don't have get the book, then you can get the book after the sessions. All right. Okay, there's a questions from China participants is asking about the cleanups, the so-called the negative elements, because he asked how frequent do we need to clean up, this negative element or so-called evil spiritual being in the space. Because in China, that is called the Jingzai, is to purify the house. How often do we need to do this?
I think that it's always a great opportunity to do this when you have festivals. Now, for instance, in Europe, we have the Easter cleaning, which is similar to your New Year cleaning because it's often connected with spring. And then you can have, whenever there's a festival, the festival of St. John, or you've got the moon festivals, you've got different festivals. If you look into the festival, whether it's, by us now, for instance, we've got Christmas, we've got Michaelmas, we've got St. John's, we've got Pentecost, and we've got Easter, and we've got New Year. So these are sort of the important festivals, and you have got festivals in your culture that are more important than others. And then it's important to see what that festival is linked to, what is the spiritual origin of that festival. And then you can use the forces that are linked with that festival to do this work that you would like to do. And of course, the more regular you do these purifications of your home, the less you would need to have evil spirits, because the evil spirits, they usually come in because of the situations that there are between human beings. If you hoard a lot of things and there's old energy in your house, that is going to bring certain beings that are linked to that kind of energy. So you have to be able to clear and get rid of certain things to try to get rid of those beings that are linked to that. And there are certain beings that are linked to passions, when you're angry, when you're fighting with people. And as my father said, discontentment opened the doors to all demons. So basically, you have to try to figure out which are the negative beings that you feel are in your house, and then try to find out which ones or what is the counter activity towards these beings, you know. So if it's a being that's there, that's linked to negativity, you're going to need positivity in your house, because you don't fight these beings, you transform them or you replace them. You know, like you create space for positive beings. If your whole house is filled with positive beings, there's no room for negative beings. And when you do the cleaning and the clearing of your house, it's good to also open the windows and ask these beings to leave. Tell them that they're not invited and that you would like them to leave. And it's not anything that you need to do with anger or with negativity, because that will only strengthen it. So try to work with this way of transforming and replacing rather than fighting. That's the most important thing. You don't fight these beings, you transform them or you replace them.
Thank you. That's followed by the question is about the community cleaning. So the question is, I'm not sure where Johanna come from, but the question is there any regular community cleaning that doing together in your neighborhood? Maybe I can put this question is like how we start community cleaning. Yeah, because it's a the original question is that doing together in your neighborhood. So I'm not sure where Johannes come from and ask about this, but I could say maybe we could find out more how we could start a community cleaning. Is that okay? The question be there? Or any example that Linda you could share with us maybe happen in your neighborhood about the community cleaning?
Well, for instance, you know, in Switzerland, you've got different forms of community cleaning, that sometimes people would go into the forest and remove the dead wood and put things aside. Or you have sometimes school classes that would go to a river and with bags and pick up all the you know, the plastic and the dirt that there is on the riverside. We have seen people here in South Africa going out to the beaches with bags and collecting the plastic that's on the beaches. That's just a form of community cleaning. You know, there's so many different ways that you can do community cleaning. We did, when my children were small, and we were 4 friends, actually we were 5 friends, and we did a small form of community cleaning in the way that every Wednesday morning, one of the mothers would look after all our children, and the other 4 mothers would go into the house of another mother and we would clean her house together. And she had to plan in advance, you know, what she wants us to clean. And then we would clean 4 of us for 4 hours. And afterwards we would go and have lunch with the families and with the mothers, the mother who looked after the children. And every week it was the turn of another mother's house. So every 5 weeks we cleaned the house of a mother, only I didn't look after the children ever. I was always with the people who cleaned. So that's another form of community cleaning. And often in spring, also sometimes I've seen in newspapers the community that calls for helpers to do cleaning together. You know, I know in Japan they clean temples together in spring, that the people go and they have a special thing of cleaning the temples. So I think it depends really very much on the community and the kind of things that you do. So cleaning the schools, for instance, that's a great form of community cleaning, when the parents go to the schools of their children and help to clean the schools there. So there's just so many different ways that we can do community cleaning. Everybody just has to be creative about it.
Okay.
I
Thank
hope
you.
that answers the question.
Yeah. Okay. Johanna, this should answer your question. Yeah. If you have further query, then you just type in the chat. Yeah. Okay. And then from Jeff Chan, he have a questions about what are the ways to clean our mind or thoughts?
To transform them. That is where I speak about the self-observation. You know, we very often not so conscious of our thoughts. Sometimes we are. If you are a person who generally likes to criticize, you know, if every time you see a person or you see something, a negative thought comes up. You have people that are like that. They can never see something positive around them. They always see the negative. If you feel that you have this tendency to think negative thoughts, I think the most important thing is to observe your thoughts and then consciously change them. You know, there's no magic way of going about it. It's an effort that you personally have to make. So you replace a negative thought with a positive thought. You stop a negative thought when it comes and say, get behind me. I will send that person a positive thought, you know, or it's like talking bad about people. There's this lovely story of the spiritual teacher, and a student came to him and he said, I'm feeling devastated. I spoke a lot of negative things about my neighbors, and now I regret it. And how can I make this good? And the teacher said, I want you to get some feathers and put a white feather in front of every house where you said something negative. So he went and he came back and he said, I did that. So the teacher said, now please go back to the houses and bring back the feathers to me. And so the student come back and he said, but all the feathers are gone. The wind has blown the feathers away. And the teacher said, you know, this is the same thing. This is how it is with words. If you say something bad, it's out there. You can never take it away. But what you can do now is you can consciously go and say something positive about these people. Apologize to them, but also whenever you have the opportunity, say something positive about these people. So, you know, this is basically with our thoughts too. When we have a negative thought, stop it and replace it with a positive thought. It's self-observation, it's pure self-observation. And then in the philosophy of freedom of Rudolf Steiner, we learn the exercises also to control our thinking, you know, to become master of our thinking. This is a spiritual path. This is one of the most important aspects of the spiritual path, is to become aware of the quality of your thinking.
Okay, thank you. I think this question also can be answered, followed by one of the questions about the trauma, right? About how to clean the inner shadow, such as a childhood trauma.
Yes, of course, there sometimes you really need professional help, and or people that really know about how to work with this sensitive area of the child. It's not something that I would make any suggestions about because I am not trained in that direction. That is basically the way that you have to, that they try to replace the negative images with positive images. But I am not able to advise a parent how to do that. I wouldn't want to take that onto myself.
Okay, thank you. Oh, that's a question. It's quite interesting. We talk about the antique furniture. Yeah, the question is, what if an old or so-called antique furniture bought into a new house, and whether how to know the house are attached to a negative being?
You know, that is something that is very interesting, and it's something that the person who is sort of having this piece of furniture, they should find out what they sense with this piece of furniture. Because I have been to places where people ask me, you know, is this negative or is this positive? And because I don't have a direct relationship to that piece of furniture, I can't even tell them that, because I see the piece of furniture and it's a beautiful piece of furniture. I like it. And this person says, yes, but I have nightmares since I have this thing. And then you have to know, yes, but why? What kind of nightmares do you have? Where does this piece of furniture come from? Who did it belong to? Tell me the history of this piece of furniture. I can tell you a lot of stories about, you know, this kind of thing. I mean, once a woman said to me that there's a very negative energy in one of her rooms. And I didn't ask her which rooms, so I went through the rooms, and then I came to one room, and I walked through the room, and I came to a spot, and I said, it's here. And she said, exactly. And then I looked at it, and, you know, if you see, there was one piece of furniture here and one piece of furniture here. Okay, right, it's difficult, yeah, like this. So right here was the negative energy. So it was as if there was a clash of energy between these two pieces of furniture. You know, the pieces of furniture in themselves didn't seem negative, but in this line where they crossed, there was something that stopped you. And she said, it's exactly that. I feel that every time I come into this room. And I said, it's got something to do with these two pieces of furniture. And she said, no, but that's impossible. That piece of furniture I received from my mother, whom I loved very much. And you could see that the pieces of furniture were well loved and they were very well cared for. And she said, the other piece of furniture I got from my godmother. It's my mother's sister. And I love her. And I also love this piece of furniture. And then I said, it was just a guess. I said to her, what was the relationship between your mother and your godmother? And she said to me, they were always very close. I mean, it would be if you ask your sister to be godmother to your daughter, it means because you're close to your sister. And then she said, when her grandmother died, the mother of these two sisters died, there was some difficulty with the inheritance. And they fought about the inheritance, and they actually fought about these two pieces of furniture. And the two sisters both passed away before they had been reconciliated. So the animosity that was between the two sisters, you could feel in the energy lines of these two pieces of furniture. And then I said to her, well, let's move the one piece of furniture to a totally different room where the energies don't cross. And we did that, and everything was perfect. The energy was perfect. So you see, there's many different aspects to this. And I cannot tell you unless I see the piece of furniture and I ask a lot of questions. Because whoever has this question has to ask questions to this piece of furniture and to the history and to how does it make him or her feel. It's not an outside person who can actually say that, unless you're clairvoyant and you can see a negative spirit, which I'm not. I can tell you just a short other example is a couple came to my workshop and they were newly married, and both of them had never been with a man or a woman before. They met each other when they were 40 and they fell in love and they got married. And when you saw them, they were like they were one person. They were so well suited. And then about 6 months after my workshop, this woman phoned me and she said to me, Linda, something terrible is wrong with my marriage. Whenever we come to our house, it's like ice cold between us. She said, when we go out, when we shop, when we go to work or a restaurant, everything is perfect. But the moment we come to our house, it's ice cold. And I said to her, I don't believe it. You know, the two of you are so perfect. And she said, we are, but the house, there's something wrong with our house. So then I said to her, what has changed? How long has this been going on? 10 days. And I said, what has changed in the last 10 days? And she said, nothing. And I said, I want you to stand in the door of your house because you tell me the minute you open the door, then everything changes. So I said, and look at this. When you open the door, look at the room very carefully and tell me what changed. And then she said, it's that I had to fetch the piano. And then I said, because she said, I had to fetch the piano. I thought, aha, that doesn't sound right. So I said to her, what's the story? And she said, well, my mother went to an old age home and she said, I must take the piano. And I said, and how do you feel about the piano? She said, I hate it. My mother wanted to be a pianist and she couldn't, so she wanted me to be a pianist. And she said, every day I had to practice for hours on that piano. I hate it because I never wanted to play the piano. Then I said, well, then the problem is very easily solved. Give the piano away. And I said to her, but make sure, that when you give the piano away, you make peace with the piano because it's not the piano's fault that you had to practice. So it's not the piano that's negative. It's the feeling that you had towards it. And she understood that and she gave the piano to a music school because it was a very good piano and everything was like it was before. So you see, there has to be a history, a specific history that has a negative influence to the person involved that's going to create the atmosphere.
And then there's another question is about, from a spiritual aspect, shall we accept a so-called antique or second-hand furniture or daily wear?
That is very personal. I know people, my son, especially when he just left school and he started working, he bought all his clothes in a second-hand store and he was very happy with them. And I have seen people that they wear something and I think, well, this is so strange. It's as if I don't know this person. And then I said to her, why? What's so? There's something so strange about you. There's something that's very different about you. And then I found out that the clothes that she wore, she had bought in a secondhand store. So it had a vibration that did not correspond to her at all. So again, these things are very, very individual. If out of financial reasons or something like that, you buy some things in a secondhand store, I will not condemn it, but make sure that you purify these objects or that you work with these objects, that you make them your own, that you don't bring with them the the energy of the people that had them before.
Okay. Thanks, Linda. And there's a question about yourself. He said, how did you, Linda, discover cleaning is utmost important and start seriously in your life?
Well, as I said before, I wanted to put my children in the Waldorf school, and their father at the time said that private schools are expensive, and if I really want our children to go to a private school, then I have to finance it. And I worked in a work that I didn't want to continue with my children because it was very highly stressed. So I asked a friend of mine, what can I do? And she said, start a cleaning company. And she said, because then you can use your time as you please. You can spend time with your children and you can divide the time. And she also said, I should start an ecological cleaning company because then I will also do something for the environment. I loved the idea. I immediately started working and I started this cleaning company, but it was difficult because when you clean, people sometimes treat you very badly. They don't respect you. They don't stick to the agreements. There's a lack of commitment and sometimes they are disrespectful. So it wasn't so easy, to do this work all the time. And then it just happened that, for instance, when I was cleaning one evening, and I was really living with this question, how am I going to handle it, you know, and my health and everything, because it was so hard and it was physical work. And then I had this thought that said, you know, I remembered something that I had heard or read, but it was, if you cannot do what you love, learn to love what you do. And then, of course, the next question was, how do I learn to love cleaning? And one of the examples I gave you is the story of this woman who swept the path in front of her house. That sort of really made something new for me, that if I would clean in such a way that I invite, you know, that I prepare space for good spirits to walk on or to fill the space, then I know that I could learn to love cleaning. But also I had this memory from my grandmother when my grandfather died in a car accident and my grandmother came to live with us. And then we had to make the bed for her, and my mother taught us how to make the bed nicely. And she said that the pillow we had to take to the window and shake it out and then, you know, sort of really tap it, you know, so that all the negative thoughts and all the sadness and the tears of my grandmother could fly away. And then we had to put it back on the bed and smooth it gently and say a prayer for my grandmother. You know, this memory also came back after 30 years. And then I realized that if I remembered that, you know, when I did this bed for my mother, my grandmother, I remember this total devotion, you know, this feeling of something sacred, because I was 5 years old. And to have a task like that, to do something that could comfort your grandmother, was something so sacred. And I did it with my whole heart and very seriously. So, you know, these memories came back, and then I had a way to start practicing. And it's by practicing this kind of, you know, working with this attitude that I truly learned to love cleaning. And I mean, today I still love cleaning. And I know that it brings so much beauty and harmony into a space. And I've seen in my work in schools, you know, how difficult situations can resolve when we cleaned, for instance, a teacher's conference room. You know, in one school, we cleaned this big school, we cleaned the whole teacher's room, and we were 52 people that cleaned there. All the teachers came, and afterwards there were really problems that resolved themselves. So that's my history of cleaning, and that's why I love it and still love it. And I believe implicitly in the importance and in this potential of change that is linked with cleaning.
Thank you. So for more of about the cleaning, the experiences, you may refer to the book, Why Cleaning Has Meaning. There's a version in English and Mandarin and several language. All right, so the following question is about hoarding. And this question is about how to help people with hoarding problem, because she worked with a family 20 years, but nothing is ever changing.
You know, if the people are real hoarders, that they really suffer from this hoarding syndrome, it is got very often to do with early childhood trauma. And if the people do not really receive help, you cannot just throw things out. You know, people who really have this, yes, like when they do compulsive hoarding, this often has to do with a need of protection. It can have to do with a severe sense of loss. You know, that people sometimes lose a partner, or they lose their work, or they get pensioned, and then there's a big void that comes. It's an emptiness, and people try to fill that emptiness with something material. And then to go in and just throw those things away, it's like taking something out of their etheric bodies. It can be very traumatic to them. So, you know, there's different situations. Sometimes a person is overwhelmed. You can have a depression. And during this depression, you're unable to do anything because your will has completely sort of gone to sleep. But if you get over the depression, usually you can get to the work again. And if you have some help to organize, it can get clean again and it can get orderly again. This I've done. But I have worked with people that are really compulsive hoarders, people with this early childhood trauma. And I worked with a person for 6 months and we did a lot of progress. I mean, we didn't even do a tenth of her apartment, but we did what we had planned to do during that 6 months, we managed to do. And the minute that we reached the goal was that she wanted to invite people for her birthday, and she's never invited people into her house because it was in such a terrible state. So we had agreed that we would just clear the entry of the house, the guest toilet, the kitchen, and the terrace so that she could invite the people to sit on her terrace. The rest of the house was completely closed. And when we had reached that goal and she had her birthday party, she had a complete breakdown. It was a complete psychosis that came after that. So just to tell you that this is situations that can be really, really difficult. So you have to find out more about the history of this family. And, you know, sometimes if the mother starts it, it can be like a contagious disease, you know, then the children can get into depressions and the husband can get into depression. It can be a very sad situation if the whole family is affected by it. And here again, I cannot give you advice unless I know the situation. But usually you need therapy for the person and you need somebody to help them there in their houses.
Someone on the
I can't hear you.
Okay, so thanks, Linda. And then the last, I think, one more question. Okay, about the hoarding. Give me a minute. Okay, there's a questions about there's a questions about the cleaning staff. They say that if the host brings his emotion to the cleaning staff or not respect the cleaning staff, and how should the staff or the cleaning worker eliminate it? You know, if the host does not respect
the person that they clean for.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't get the question. It's somebody is working for somebody and that person does not respect that person.
Yes, I mean the host not respect the cleaning worker.
Yes, I have experienced that for instance, a woman asked me to clean her house and we had made a definite arrangement about what I have to do. And when I came to the cleaning to the house, this person did not respect this agreement. And she wasn't there. And then when she came, she was angry because I didn't finish all the work. But I said to her, we had agreed that I would clean the house. We did not say that I'm going to wash the dishes or pick up the rubbish and order the rooms of the children. Everything was supposed to be in order so that I could come and clean. And so the next week when I went to clean there again, it was the same situation, dirty dishes everywhere, things all over the house. So I just put the key in an envelope and I said to this lady, I'm sorry, but if you cannot stick to our agreement, I will not clean for you. So if a person treats you with disrespect and you can afford it, change your work. Go to another person. Don't work for people that don't respect you. That's my personal advice. But I don't know if this person is working for an agency or is she working independently for people. That depends. But I would, in any case, mention that there's a lack of respect. You don't have to work for people that don't respect you. There are people that will respect you. If it's at all possible, I would not work for a person that does not respect me or my work.
Thanks. Hope this answer will be more helpful to you. And the questions followed by one of the participants from Singapore, and she'd like to find out, how some examples to how to purify the so-called pre-loved objects. I mean the secondhand or the pre-loved object. How examples of how to purify it.
Well, I think that here you can also work to a certain extent. You could work with the elements. We know that water also absorbs and also earth absorbs. So, depending on what the size of the object is and how the object is, I think by just, really cleaning it, in a positive way, washing it or dusting it or polishing it, and just to work with your love, with your awareness, and to work consciously with this thought of transforming the energy that there is to a positive energy, to say that you bring your love to this object. If you bring your love to this object and you touch it, when you touch an object, part of you goes into that object. So part of your etheric, part of your astral, part of your I goes into that object because you link yourself with it. And then in that way, you can transform what is in there. You replace what is in there with what you bring to it. But this is a conscious work that you have to do really consciously. And depending on how it is, you'll have to feel whether once is enough. But if you do that every time you look or you care for this piece of furniture or clothes or whatever, then you can transform what is in there or replace it by what you bring to it. If you buy something and you feel something negative, I wouldn't buy it. Unless it's something that you really love and you think it's worth it. But if you feel something negative about something, why bring it into your house? Why spend a lot of energy on trying to get something positive that you feel is not good for you? It's just a question for me personally. If I get something and I'm going to buy something, I would prefer to just immediately get something that I like, that feels positive to me, that brings me happiness, and not something that I think, oh, this doesn't feel so nice, I've got to work on it. I don't see why one should waste that energy.
Okay,
But perhaps I'm a bit radical,
okay.
a bit selfish.
Yeah. Okay, but I think this is quite reasonable, right? You buy something you love, you like on the first sight, rather than you try to fix it and you don't use it at the end, and you just leave it there. Okay, Linda, I think we take this last questions, and then we close the Q&A, and then we will introduce about the coming workshop. So the last question is, she says she has unclear, the life direction is unclear, but a lot of worries and fear. And is that she can start from cleaning, it could be help, like any help, like through the cleaning the house and to create her space.
I'm sorry, there's something in the sound that's not always good. I did not get that question.
Sorry, I think it's my line is not stable. I repeat the questions. She said that her life direction is unclear and she has a lot of worries about the futures, So she would like to find out is that she can start from cleaning. Cleaning is the house and the space.
That will definitely help. That will, of course, definitely help that she would create space while she's cleaning, that she would create space for clarity. And that while she's cleaning, she can always work with this as I clean this and make it pure, so that a pure energy can fill it, help me to make myself pure and clean, and that clean energy will fill me, or that, you know, live with this question of how can I serve? Where am I needed? You know, sometimes we have so many thoughts of possibilities of things that we can do in our life that it's difficult to choose one direction. So sometimes I think, you know, you can address the guardian angel or the spiritual beings in your life to help you with that direction, to help to give you that direction. And every time you work physically, you can work with this idea of finding the direction, finding the inspiration and the clarity to make the right decision. It's a question of creating space for that, the future that is coming into your life. Basically, this is like preparing for the new year. You create a space within yourself to have a new direction or to find the right direction. It's so easy to say that, but it's very difficult for a person who feels that there's no direction, how to find that direction. And it's difficult to just say so, because, you know, I don't want things to sound easy. Nothing is easy. You know, you have to work. It's hard work. If you really want to achieve something, it's hard work. So why is it difficult to find a direction? You know, what is the situation in this person's life? Are there different choices or something like that? You know, I would basically have to speak with this person to find out why there's a difficulty in finding a direction. It's not, you know, I can't just answer a question just like that. Working consciously with creating space on the physical plane, you can always create space on all the different levels and then ask for the guidance to come to you. That's basically all I can suggest. I can't just it's not as easy as that to answer that kind of question. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you, Linda. I believe that most of you know, the participants tonight, they definitely gains a lot the insight from Linda. And of course, if you like to find out more, you know, how to do it, how to start work for further, okay, do join us this coming January. We have the 2 days online workshop. So what's covered in the workshop, but what will you learn? So there was a day one, we have a 2 session, 2 days. The first session will be a discuss and Q&A, and the second session will be the practical demonstration and also the method. So this workshop is more on deepening, especially if you stuck, you know, have no idea how to kickstart or how to make everyone move or yourself to do it. And instead of just listen, you know, or read a book, actually to creating the space to do the cleaning, this activity, you need to do it. You need to move and get a first start. Then you only see the result gradually. So it's not like you just listen to class and then you just read the book, but you do nothing. And then definitely you couldn't get, you couldn't see the change. That's why 3 of us, I mean, the organization Kongsi Academy, Linda Thomas Academy, as well as the 3-4 co-learning community, and 3 of us would like think this is the utmost important, and therefore we organize this online workshop 2 days before the new year. Yeah, so it's a long hour, but trust me, it's worth it. Yeah, it's a January 20 and the 21st, Saturday and Sunday. We start the session from Beijing or Malaysia time, 3 to 6 p.m. Then we have a break from 7 to 10. We continue. For CET time is 8 a.m. to 11. Then we continue. The second session is 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. Yeah. So there's a 2-day, almost a full day workshop. And this is a deepening learning. Yeah, for those who really like to make a change and you know how to, you would like to find out a method on how to do the cleaning, and really not only for the physical space, but also for our inner. Yeah, we welcome you all to join this. Don't miss this opportunity to join this 2 days workshop. Yeah, so you could either scan this for the registrations, or we will post the link to all our social media. So this is for China. You also can scan this, the QR code, to contact the local person in charge for further information. Okay, further for next year coming is a pre-announcement for that. And in June, they will have a conference in Malaysia, which is an anthroposophic conference. And well, our dear Linda will be here in June, Malaysia. Yeah. So the next, in August, then we have a biography workshop in Mandarin. So this is the highlight of the next year event. And we hope that everyone could take this opportunity to learn something new, or to give yourself a New Year gift, as your self-development. Yeah. So thank you so much for Linda, and we hope to see you all in January 20th and 21st. Yeah, for those who have a question that you think that we missed your question, or you have a question would like to ask, do drop in the chat box or email to us, and then we will gather the information and we will share with Linda, and then we try to cover the topics or the questions during our workshop, or we will share the answers, the ideas from Linda in our social medias or the messages. Yeah, stay tuned.